Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We're here together on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2022. We get, or are we on Wednesday? But nonetheless, November 2nd, 2022, we get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings and discuss strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. Some cases, we just go back and reiterate some of the resources and tools that you and I have to help small businesses become credible. So what is it that we do? Three things. We help small businesses build financial literacy. Why do we do that? Because if they understand how lenders are going to view them, the concepts, the terms, the principles, then they're better positioned for a capital raise. Secondly, we help small businesses build loan packages. Well, why is that important? Because that is the documentation that's needed to be able to get an approval. It tells the story to the lender, how much money the borrower wants, what they're going to use it for, and supporting documentation. And then thirdly, what we do is we help clients become credible enough, because it's real easy for someone to just say, oh, I want 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million, but we need to be able to be qualified for it, right? It's too good to be true to think that we can just want, that we can just hope, that we can just pray for money. We have to find the right source of capital based on our mitigating circumstances. We have to apply, we have to get approved. So that's what you and I do, those three things. We help small businesses build financial literacy, we help them build lender compliant loan packages, and we help them become credible enough. So what does credible enough mean? Well, that can vary, right? Because there's different sources of capital. If there's no other principle that you remember and maintain top of mind awareness of, then this, then this. And that is that there's different sources of capital and each have their own underwriting criteria. So let's imagine that you and I walked into a high school gymnasium and the gymnasium was filled of buckets of money, but underneath each bucket were the criteria. So there's lots of different types of funding available to small businesses. There's no shortage of that. But what we need to do is help the client figure out which buckets are most applicable to them and then make sure that they meet the underwriting criteria. So with that being said, what are some things that make a business credible? Well, having a unique commercial address is a fundamental foundational piece of credibility. And so a lot of small businesses don't have that. And what we're looking at on the screen here is a resource that you and I can help them have a strong foundation, and you're able to monetize it. So you make money and we help them. Pretty good combination. So let's talk about what it is, and then we can discuss how you monetize it. So we call this the Express Business Startup Package, a grant subsidized turnkey resource to form a new business position for fast funding. Who should participate in the Express Business Startup Package? We are targeting entrepreneurs who are looking to form a new business that is well positioned for fast funding. So what we're doing here is actually creating the business for them. You might say, oh, well, the client that you have in mind or clients that you work with already have a business. Well, that's fine. And so if they have a business that's properly set up, then they don't have a problem that this solves. But the truth is, there's a lot of small businesses that have businesses that are not formed properly, and it might be easier to start a new one for their capital raise. So we're not saying that they have to change what they're doing or cancel out that old company. But if it's not positioned well, that's the difference between businesses and humans, right? As a human, we can't just hit the reset button, but as a business owner, we can hit the reset button and say, you know what, I'm going to start a new business for this purpose of the capital raise, because what I have now has some hair on it. It's not optimized. And we'll go into that more in a moment. So what we do is we actually file with the Secretary of State and get the business formed. And then we can also then help them raise capital. So this that we're looking at here, it is not included in access to capital, and it doesn't compete with access to capital. So access to capital, as you know, is where we're working with them and we're guaranteeing them a $100,000 capital raise. This would almost be an adjunct. Maybe it's a precedent. Maybe this happens even before they enroll into access to capital, or conversely, someone enrolls in access to capital and then we realize that they're missing the entity structure and setup for success. And so this was developed with the input of former SBDC SBA advisors and SCORE mentors. Turnkey package conveniently and affordably provides what's needed to be positioned for funding. Here we're faced with the price, and I didn't really want to talk about the price yet. That was at the tail end of our discussion, but since it's next on the flyer, we'll address it. You can price this however you want. Anything that you price it above $249 is your profit. So you'll send us $249. Anything above that is your profit. This flyer should be in your white label Dropbox. You can edit the pricing and you can edit the contact information as you would like. If you don't have it in your Dropbox, let us know and we'll get it to you, but it should be there. All right, so let's get down into some more of the details of what this includes. So the grant subsidized express business startup package provides an affordable and effective solution for early stage businesses to meet important credibility factors. And that's where we started our conversation today, is that there's three things that we do. The third of the three is helping small businesses be credible enough for a capital raise. Well, what credibility factor are you and I helping with here? We're helping them have a legitimate and unique commercial address. So if they already have an entity, but they're using a post office box, that's not good. That's not credible. If they already have an entity and they're using a residential address, that's not good. That's not credible. If they already have an entity formed, but they're using some sort of shared address like a WeWork or a Regus, that is not good. That is not as credible as having a true, unique commercial address. So you can see that this could be applicable to non-formed, pre-formed businesses before startup even, or it frankly could be a resource when you run into clients that already are formed, but they're formed in such a way that they're not as credible as they could be. So we explain that once they enroll, we're going to assign them a unique address. And that normally happens same day. Very quickly, we're going to get them a unique address. And that's crucial. It's a true commercial address. And they have a unique suite number. That's what, when I'm talking about unique address, let's define that more. So a lot of people will go to like a Regus, and Regus is a good company. I've used them early in our development. So I have nothing negative to say about Regus. But Regus will have one suite number. Now that suite may be a whole floor of a building, but regardless of those details, suite 400, for example. And then all of their tenants have that address, suite 400. Is that a unique address? No. Is it a commercial address? Yes. But what we're wanting to provide is a unique and commercial address. So it's, you think of Donald Trump's tower in Manhattan. On the 19th floor, are there multiple suites? Sure. So it's okay that there's different suite numbers on the same floor, but if it's all one suite number, that is not a unique address. And that's what we're providing, is a unique business address. We also file with the Secretary of State, and the grant pays that filing fee. So the filing fee does not have to be paid by the client. And then we'll get the EIN. So then we answer the question, well, why would someone want to enroll? Well, we provide improved legitimacy of their business with a true, unique commercial address. It certainly does increase their access to capital, provides geographic access to the Chapman Fund, which we'll talk more about in a moment, and again, the grant pays for the filing fee. They don't have to pay the filing fee to the Secretary of State. So what is included? And I will mention that we've developed this purposefully to be simple. So they don't have to go sign a contract. This is it. This is the description. Now, again, I realize that you will probably change the price and mark it up, which is fine. Some of you are giving it away free. Some of you are charging more, some less. That's up to you. And so you'll likely change that on the flyer and how they receive, what the call to action is. But this is literally all they need. We don't have to go send them an Adobe or terms and conditions agreement. This is it. This clearly states what they get. Less moving parts than access to capital. All right, so let's get back over to what is included. So we're going to provide them a unique commercial business address with mail forwarding. We're going to file with the Secretary of State, get that EIN created, and then we talk about the Chapman Fund. So let's speak of the Chapman Fund for a moment. So there are different types of taxing incentives across the country for different purposes. So I'll give you an analogy, and then we'll go through this one, the Chapman Fund. So to the best of my knowledge, this is still true. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa would like you to move there. So Alfred, Andrea, Bruce, Charles, Collis, Doug, Jeanette, Jose, Linda, Mandy, Pauline, Phyllis, Quincy, Terrence, and the rest of you. Tulsa, Oklahoma would like to be your new home. And they have a tax subsidy to pay you $10,000 if you'll move there. Now, that may be what you want to do, may not want to be, but that's an example of a taxing district, the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that is putting money out to draw new talent into their community. Not what we're talking about, but it's a good analogy. So in this case, it's the Chapman Fund, also from a taxing authority, and it's providing funding, not to try to get you to move somewhere, but to try to get you to start or grow a business. Now, there's good and bad of Chapman Fund, so we're going to go through it. But it's important to understand that it's tied geographically, just like Tulsa. You could say, well, I don't want to move to Tulsa. I want to move to Seattle, Washington, but I want my 10,000. What do you think Tulsa is going to say? You're crazy, right? The deal was that you move to Tulsa if you want the 10,000, right? You can't move to Seattle and get 10,000. So the Chapman Fund comes from a taxing authority from a defined geographic area. So the business has to be based in that area or you can't qualify, just like the Tulsa example. So that's one consideration. But for us, that's simple because when we're forming the new entities, guess what? We form it in the taxing district of the Chapman Fund, so it geographically qualifies, right? That's kind of makes sense. One of the negatives, and we get some people heated about this, and I apologize in advance, but it has a hard cap of $250,000. They will not provide more than $250,000, no matter how smart, how handsome, how well-spoken you are. $250,000 is the max. So we could use this as a tranche and then go get more money separately later, but we cannot get more than $250,000 for the Chapman Fund. To me, that sounds like an okay deal. Some people get rather irate with it, but that's the way it is. The money can be used for fixed assets, new construction, renovation, leased property, equipment, inventory, and working capital. As I mentioned, it can be used in conjunction with other types of funding. It can even be structured, and this is very unique, to show that it's an equity injection. I was talking to one of you this morning, and he is looking at buying some commercial warehouses, 3 specifically, but he doesn't have much money to contribute towards to show equity injection, so we may in fact use the Chapman Fund for that purpose. And instead of having to jump through bank financing hoops, it's through a taxing authority. So that's a perk, right? That's a perk, just like Tulsa. If you move to Tulsa, you can get the perk of the 10,000. Here we're talking about more, but it's for a specific purpose. No one's asking you to move anywhere, but the business has to be domiciled in that area. All right, so let's go through questions, comments, concerns you have, because this is very relevant. If it doesn't seem relevant, then either I'm a poor communicator, which could be the case, or you're not catching on, which maybe is the case. If we're trying to help businesses get funding, we need to help them become credible. Part of credibility is having a unique commercial address. Do they have to get the address through what you and I offer? Absolutely not. We're not trying to pitch something to anyone, but it's not going to be unusual that you're working with clients that are not set up properly or optimally. This can be a resource. And I like Alfred, if I recall correctly, he puts a 1 in front of this. And tell me, Alfred, if I'm wrong, but I think Alfred sells this package for $1,249.99. So he puts just a nice grand in his pocket each time. And Alfred, how many of these do you think you'll do this month in November? Around 30, around 1 a day. So again, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not going to change your life, but an extra 30,000 of income per month of helping a small business isn't a bad side gig. And it doesn't compete with the rest of what we do. But not all companies will need this. Not all will want it. They don't have to do it. I'm just explaining that there's a problem that some businesses have in terms of a lack of a credibility, in terms of their not having a unique commercial address. You and I have a solution for it. All right, so let's go through the questions, comments, concerns. Paulie asked, can he pitch this to entrepreneurs in foreign countries? Absolutely. Yeah, so there's not a restriction geographically, because we're fixing the geographic issue, because it will be a US-based company through this model. Great question, Paulie. So your international prospects are just fine to participate. Jose asked an even better question, I guess. So Jose's asking, if a client's already up and running, business is up and going, they're generating revenue, but they got a bad address. Bad address, meaning that they don't have the credibility. It's not a unique commercial address. So at that point, there's a couple choices. You know, they certainly should aspire to be credible. And one element of credibility is having a unique commercial address. They could use this or not. This, what we could do is form, Jose, a new entity for them that's specifically built for the capital raise. It could be a subsidiary of their main company, for example, and then this is plug and play. But what we're not doing, for simplicity, is we're not moving businesses here. So if the business is already set up in Florida or Nevada or Wyoming, we're not doing relocation, because there's a lot of work involved with that, getting updated filings with Dun & Bradstreet to get all the paperwork correct. It's just not worth it in most cases. So we're going to, in this package, we're going to always create a new entity, because it's the simplest, the quickest, and it allows us to keep our cost low. All right, thank you for that question. If I missed your point, Jose, let me know. So Quincy's asking a good question. So when someone enrolls in this, this is not a capital raise program. This does not include access to capital. So often they'll do this and then turn around and enroll with you in access to capital. So then the access to capital process operates normally. So just to clarify, this does not compete with access to capital. It's not included in access to capital. It doesn't include it. It's a separate foundational piece for those small businesses that are lacking credibility from a perspective of having a unique commercial address. Follow-up question Quincy has about, so the Chapman Fund, just like the Tulsa example, Tulsa is, if you move to Tulsa, you can get 10,000. Here, you have to be in the geographic area for the Chapman Fund, which is where we base this around. So that's why we promote it, because it works. There's a match. Okay, let's see. Doug asked a good question. Are there other costs? No. So we made the decision that there are no other costs. So that's why it says a one-time fee. Now, I guess that's a lie, because if you're Alfred or whomever you're marking it up, the fee is different. And if you want to charge them different fees, that's up to you. But from our perspective, we're charging them this. Anything that you want to mark it up. If you want to be an Alfred and add a 1 in front of it, I've not seen anyone do it. Maybe you want to add a 2 in front of it and charge them $2,249.99. That's up to you. We do have a couple of you that are insurance agents that are giving this away. So it's kind of an inducement to get them to buy insurance from you. So you're giving it away for free, but you know you're going to send in the $249 to us. That's one time. There's no additional cost, no subsequent fees. It is as it is. It's just very simple and straightforward. Quincy asks, can they get money from this? Well, yeah. So they can come aboard, and then if they want the Chapman Fund, then yeah, they can get the Chapman Fund, and they can use the 250,000, and they don't have to take 250. It goes down. I think the floor is 30,000, but yeah, they could use the money for whatever they want to use it for. Okay, so the Chapman Fund is a 14 county area, responding to Mandy's question, but that's irrelevant, right? I don't know that you have to worry about that, because you can market this anywhere in the country, and then we provide them at a unique commercial business address in the geographic area for the Chapman Fund. I can see there's a breakdown. So it's my fault, not yours, Mandy. Don't worry about where the client is. The client could be in Honolulu or Anchorage or Boston or Miami. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because we're going to set up their business in the right spot. And they don't have to live where their business is. They don't even have to live in the same state. They don't have to live in the same hemisphere, right? Which was Paulie's question earlier. Thank you for those questions. So again, I'm not here to pitch something on you. I'm just letting you know that you're going to run into some clients that lack credibility in different areas. One area of credibility is having a unique commercial address. And so you and I have a solution for that. You might say, well, how much does it cost? I don't know how much it costs, because you picked the pricing. You know that you're going to send us the $249. Whatever you charge above it is up to you. And that's a one-time fee. That's why it says, let's read it closely, one-time fee. So Jeanette just asked me, what's the cost to maintain the business address? Jeanette, here it is. Let's read it together. Only a one-time fee. This is what you're going to send us. Anything that you charge more than that is your business. You make all the markup. You make all the profit. Are there subsequent fees? No, because there's only a one-time fee. Super simple. And yes, of course, we can help them with Chapman Fund, of course. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns on this? So again, I mean, you can approach it how you want. You could start with this, especially if you're doing workshops. Like yesterday, we talked about going out to libraries and that, doing the 27 mistake workshop. In some environments, you're going to draw in a lot of entrepreneurs that are pre-formation. Well, this is great for them. In other cases, you'll have business that are post-formation. In other words, their entity's already created. Hey, great, let's roll with it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But what you'll see is that when you have them complete the paperwork for the first tranche of financing, which is that funding application, which is in your white label Dropbox, the top of it asks about business information, the bottom asks about personal. So on the business information, it asks, what type of address do you have, right? So that's all running through you. So you can just look at that and say, dude, you're running this out of your home. That's not credible. We're going to fix that. And you can take a hard sell, soft sell. Again, you control the pricing. But the bottom line is, once you see that app in front of you, and if you see they have a shitty address, it's pretty easy to pivot them to this, right? It's factual. You're looking at it on their damn application. So it's like, well, dude, instead of submitting your application with a shitty address, why don't we get you a good address and then submit it, right? So it can be that simple if you're following the process, right? You sign a client up for access to capital. You get the funding app filled out, you put those two in the Dropbox and you let us know so we can go get their first tranche of financing. Well, you're no fool, right? You look at the application and it says residential address, or it says post office box or shared address. Well, you know that they're going into this without full credibility. So if you want, you don't have to. If you want, you can say, hey, we can make you stronger. We can help you get access to more capital. We can make you better. And here's how we do it. And then again, you control the price. If you want to give it away, give it away. If you want to put a 1 in front of it, do the Alfred model, put a 1 in front of it. I think some of you, I know Quincy pretty well. Quincy's probably the guy that's going to put a 2 in front of it, but it's up to each of you. All right, any questions, comments, concerns on this revisitation of the Express startup? Doug admits he hadn't given much attention to it, but yeah, I think reasonably putting 1,000 on top of it is going to be palatable. And so if you mark it up by 1,000, and again, I don't know how many clients you'll enroll this month, Doug, but you know, if you're aggressive like Alfred, you're doing about 1 a day. So it puts about around an extra 30,000 in your bank account. And again, I know that's not that big of a deal for some of you, but how much work did you do to increase your monthly income this month by another $30,000? Not much work. Okay. But again, you control the price. Again, some of our insurance guys and gals, they're giving it away for free to attract clients and induce insurance sales. And so they're not making any money on the front end, but they're almost guaranteed a key person policy sale. So it's up to you. Question Quincy has about performance fees. So yes, if you have the client under contract for access to capital, which is different than this, then you're paid a performance fee on all capital raises, including the Chapman Fund. Yeah, so if you're choosing 10%, if you have selected a 10% performance fee, yeah, then again, none of this is going to make you rich overnight, but 10% of $250,000 would put another $25,000 in your pocket. It helps, right? It's not going to make or break you, but it helps. All right, Mandy asked, how long does it take to get this? So Mandy, I don't understand the question. Can you restate the question, Mandy? You're asking a timing question, which I'm sure is a good question, but it's not clear to me. Oh, the money. Well, keep in mind, there's 2 parts to getting the money, isn't there, Mandy? The client is going to either enroll in this or not, and then separately they're going to enroll into access to capital or not. And the access to capital hasn't changed. It's the same thing that we always talk about. We're going to get them their first tranche of financing in 3 to 5 days, right? Actually, Mandy, you and I talked about it literally this morning. So the first tranche of financing should be around the first week. And then we build the loan package, and then we can go after the larger amounts. All right, everyone. Thank you for your time. We'll see you back tomorrow on Thursday, now that I remember what day of the week it is. But Friday, we won't be here. We're doing the workshop down in Houston, downtown Houston, 4th largest city in the country. Excited to do that at the big steakhouse down there. So we'll be doing the workshop Friday, so we won't be here in the office and we won't have the Zoom, but we're here tomorrow and then back on Monday. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.